Hey tribe, Diana here. I had a really cool experience last night that I want to tell you about. About 5:30 last night, I was snout deep in a jar of candied jalapenos that were oh so good from Buc-ee's when Laura Musica, executive director of Sidewalk Advocates for Life, texted me and said, "Hey girl, we have an extra ticket to a pre-screening of Unplanned, the movie about Abby Johnson's life. Do you want to go?" And I was like, heck yeah, I want to go. I'm in the car now. So I get there. I see an awesome documentary about the making of the movie, see the movie itself. And then after the movie, there is a Q&A from some of the movie's makers and executives. And the star of the movie, Ashley Bratcher herself, was there answering questions. So it was a really cool experience. There was one thing that I kind of came away with seeing the movie, and that was just kind of the word honesty just really started to just resound, in my mind as I was thinking about the movie that I had seen, and particularly three ways that Unplanned is a very honest movie. It's very honest in three distinct ways, and I'm going to share those with you today. Now, here's a little disclaimer. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, especially if you're already aware of the story of Abby Johnson. I'm not going to be telling you anything that you don't already know. If you're not aware of her at all, then you'll get, kind of a feel for her story from this, but I'm not going to share any particulars of the movie itself. I don't want to ruin that experience for you because I think it's a great movie that everybody should go see. So here are the three ways that Unplanned takes an honest and unflinching look at abortion in general, Abby's story, and whatnot. So the first way is that Unplanned is really honest about the nature of the different pro-life responses to abortion in general. So there is a scene in the movie, and I'm not going to go into any detail, but as I was watching that, I was thinking, you know what? This is really a mirror. This is holding up a mirror to the pro-life movement. And it's saying, this is what we are. This is what we are. And there's a range in that. So there was peaceful, loving people. And then there were people on the other side who were letting their anger towards abortion, a righteous anger towards abortion, actually turn them into people who must have looked like monsters from folks who were on the other side of those faces and on the other side of the yelling and the screaming and the name calling. And, it's funny, Hollywood has done some movies about abortion, and they never accurately portray peaceful sidewalk counselors in a fair light. And I was glad to see that this movie didn't make the same mistake in the opposite direction of ignoring the fact that even on our side of the fence, the pro-life side of the fence, that there are people who do not come to the sidewalk with a sense of respect for the workers, respect for the fact that they are image bearers of God, empathy for the fact that they have had their own story and are likely touched by abortion themselves. We know many of the people who work in the clinics have had abortions in their history. So that scene held up a mirror and said, this is who you are. And it definitely made me, it helped me be more resolved to be the kind of person that is safe in the eyes of someone on the other side of the fence, who is approachable, and who is inviting of a conversation and can build rapport with someone. So that was that. Took an unflinching and honest look at the different responses, pro-life responses to abortion. The second way it was very honest was that it showed the reality, kind of related to the first point, it showed the reality of relationships on the sidewalk between people on the opposite side of the fence, particularly those relationships between clinic workers and peaceful, loving, compassionate pro-lifers. So I think sometimes there's this idea, even with pro-lifers, that there's no rapport whatsoever between any pro-lifers and anybody involved with the clinic, and that's not true. Now, there are a lot of cases where there is a lot of hostility, especially coming from the pro-abortion side towards pro-lifers, but that's not always the case. And this is what really kind of touches me about that, is because when I was first a sideliner, a pro-life sideliner, 100% pro-life convictions, but felt like, hey, I advocating for life is somebody else's job. When I first stepped off the sideline, my primary focus was the baby. Okay, my primary focus was the baby and what was happening to the baby. Um, I did not really think about the mother, and I certainly didn't think of the clinic workers with any kind of empathy or with any kind of understanding. I am embarrassed to say this now, but I had to have that kind of love and compassion for clinic workers and even for mothers in crisis modeled for me by peaceful, loving, compassionate people in the pro-life movement. And so what I really liked about this movie was that it showed that when we check our righteous indignation at the door, and when we instead bring the compassion and the love of Christ with us to the sidewalk, there are incredibly powerful relationships that can form between unlikely people. And that really is the crux of the whole story of Unplanned. So it takes an honest look at the reality of relationships on the sidewalk between peaceful pro-lifers and clinic workers. And so the third way that Unplanned is an honest movie is that it's very honest about Abby Johnson and her culpability in the 22,000 abortions that she presided over during her tenure at Planned Parenthood as the clinic director. And so this is one thing that really kind of surprised me, because yes, definitely the name Planned Parenthood was spoken of quite a lot in the movie, but I was surprised that Planned Parenthood really wasn't maligned and really wasn't the villain in the movie. They made it very clear that it was Abby's own ambition to be successful. She was the youngest clinic director in the history of Planned Parenthood. So she wanted to be the best. She wanted to hit all the benchmarks. She wanted to make her bosses proud. And so a lot of her own passion and drive is what propelled her to do the things that she did, including selling abortion to women who were really on the fence. And so this movie takes an honest look at that. And it's important for two reasons. One, because it helps us know what's being said in Planned Parenthoods on this very day. Women or men even that are counselors or Planned Parenthood are going to say some of the same things that Abby Johnson said to some of these women. And we need to know what these women are being told and what these families are being told who go in for just a pregnancy test. They're unsure which way they want to go. It helps us to know what they're being told so we can counter those arguments. The second thing, that the reason why I'm so happy that they were so honest about Abby's story, is because it shows that she is such an incredible trophy of God's grace. Where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. And I think that's what Unplanned shows. It exemplifies, brings to life that truth, that there is no darkness that Jesus can't light up. There's no sinner that Jesus can't save. There is no story that Jesus cannot redeem. And I really appreciate Abby Johnson for being very honest about her story, because it helps other people see just the possibilities of redemption, and just the depth of God's love for us. So it's coming out March 29th. Their original date was March 22nd, but they're running into some snags. This movie really needs our prayers. There is a group called Unplanned Prayer Group, I believe on Instagram and Facebook. I'm going to join that group today. I encourage you to join that group. Tell your friends about this movie. Buy a bunch of tickets. Invite everybody you know. I think I'm literally going to stand on highways and byways and hand out free tickets. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do. At least, 10 tickets to total strangers and say, hey, you got to see this movie. So that's it for me. Had a great time. It's definitely worth your time to see and promote this movie. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.